About like 10 minutes ago, I looked over to my left and realized the cooker had been left on this entire time. I don't know if listeners are aware of the fallout that has happened, but a while back, like a couple of weeks ago, Patreon decided to restructure their payment scheme uh, to the detriment of actual Patreons. They kind of made it better for creators and worse for Patreons. There was a huge fallout, and Bill and I were talking, and based on what some other YouTubers were doing, we thought it might be a cool idea to not charge for this episode, to be like, hey, look, Patreon clearly doesn't care about you guys, but we do. So here you go, have the episode for free. Now, since then, Patreon have like backtracked on everything because of the fallout and said, look, we're not changing anything. The payment thing is exactly the same. Nothing has changed. So Bill and I talked again, and we were like, hey, let's still just give it out for free because we were going to do it anyways. And it's Christmas, and a bit of a kind of like thanks for listening here, no charge, around Christmas time sort of thing. So heads up to the Patreons. We won't charge you for this. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, they've really listened to their base, to their creators, and to the patrons using the platform, and have decided to roll back everything. I think they could have, not made those decisions in the first place and listened to them before, actually consulted the relevant parties before making those decisions. So I think there's been a lot of trust lost.
Yeah.
And I think some of the creators have lost out on a lot of money because like a lot of people who are supporting them at the kind of $1 level, they cut out a lot of the people they were supporting because of the increased charges. But hopefully it can be repaired, and at least it's been demonstrated that they listen and that they respond to their community.
Yeah, the charging, the new payment scheme like disproportionately affected $1 patrons. Like they paid.
Yeah.
What basically happened for the listeners is that the way it is now is that we incur credit card transaction fees, like we the creators. The patrons don't. So when you like sign up to support a creator for $1, you literally pay $1, and then we pay credit card fees on top of that. So we get a little bit less than $1. And the new thing would have flipped it such that the patrons had to pay for all the credit card transaction fees. And the way it worked, it disproportionately affected the $1 thing, which is crazy that they even considered this because the whole industry of Patreon is built around micropayments. Like a whole bunch of people get together and give not so much money such that things can work. And it just how they sat around the boardroom and thought that this was a good idea is beyond me. And the thing is as well, just I know this is very kind of like creator centric and doesn't make for the best listening, but I just want to talk about it. This is a total non-problem. They're making out maybe there are creators around the place who feel deeply hurt by having to pay the transaction fees, but I just see that as like a convenience cost, like a cost for using the service. And what is it? I think at worst it's something like we get 85 cents to the dollar at the lower bracket. And coming from the YouTube world where YouTube takes 55% of what we make, this is like manna from heaven, to make 85 cents on the dollar is amazing. And then Patreon's like, no, we have to support our creators. You're already doing that. There's no need to mess with this. It is fine. Stop it. And it's just, I don't know. It's just, the cynic in me is kind of like, no company kind of does stuff for the benefit of its users. They do stuff for the benefit of their bottom line. And part of me thinks the bottom line, this whole debacle was helping their bottom line, not necessarily the creators and definitely not the Patreon. So I think you're dead right when you said that they should have maybe thought about this first and not had to backtrack. But they've gained some trust back in backtracking. But yeah, there was a period of time there was like, I don't know if this is entirely ethical to be on a platform where the platform screws the user so badly, like the user as in you guys, the Patreons. Because that's not cool. Like, if YouTube screws us as video makers, fine. You still get to use the platform and nothing changes for you, the end users. But when you screw the end users, you got a big problem there. And so I was very angry when that happened, Bill. Very, very angry. And I'm less angry now.
And I saw comments to the effect that someone defended it by saying it would be good for the larger creators who use the platform. That it wouldn't be, it might affect smaller creators, but anyone who's doing well out of it will benefit. But then you're no different than a record label or a publishing company or something. You're that's taking away the benefit of the platform.
Yeah, exactly. That takes away the whole idea that anyone could have a go. Like, if you have an interesting idea with a small but dedicated community of fans around it, you can make a go at it.
Yeah.
But that's a complete non-argument. Like the idea that
right?
Yeah, like 10 or so creators, 10 or so of the biggest creators will just take everything. Like that's a complete non-argument. That's silly. The whole thing is silly, and there's no good argument for what it is they were planning to do. And yeah, thankfully they've stopped, which is nice. So TLDR, no payment on this one. We'll just put it up for free. Merry Christmas, and we'll get back to normal in the new year.
Absolutely.
Cool. Now, another thing before we do follow up proper is I just wanted to note, because it made me feel kind of nice, we've reached 2 base 10 milestones. I know it should be base 12, but, there's historic precedent for doing base 10 here. The Reddit passed 1,000 subscribers. Is that the word for the Reddit? To be subscribe. Yeah, you subscribe to subreddits. Yeah, we passed 1,000.
1,273 now.
Yeah, we passed it a little while back, but to be honest, I don't really look at the metrics much on Reddit. I just kind of go there to chat. But I happened to look at them just today and was like, oh, look, we crossed 1,000. And the podcast YouTube channel also crossed 1,000. So, I mean, relative to the main Artifexian channel, these are not huge numbers, but it always feels really nice. It's kind of like, cool, that's really cool. So, just a thank you, everyone.
See, on this, you're carrying some dead weight, whereas in the main Artifexian, it's just pure, lean, sleek Edgar 100% of the time. You don't have the dead weight on that, but here, you've got all this extra burden.
Sleek and Edgar are 2 words that do not go together.
Sure, you're barely there.
Oh yeah, that's true. I am. Yeah, that's fair. But it was just kind of a cool milestone. So thanks to everyone who subscribed to the Reddit and the YouTube channel. It's really cool. And it's nice to see that people are listening. So yeah, it makes us feel really good.
Absolutely.
All right. So do you want to do follow up proper?
Sure. We have an email here from Sid H, who I think may have emailed us before. Mm-hmm. It's a somewhat familiar name.
Yep.
And we were talking in a recent podcast about a language, the language of the Avox, a language where we don't use the sounds of the tongue. Mm-hmm. And so that got Sid thinking about languages that don't use speech, which, again, we talked about way back. They had an idea that you could turn facial movements and expressions into a language. For example, movement of the eye in directions in a certain pattern could be a word. The writing system could be a kind of featural system where movement is presented graphically. A smile could be written or carved as a curve. A one expression could convey one idea rather than a string of expressions making a word. Although because of the limited amount of distinguishable expressions, some words would have to be a string. Do you have any thoughts on this idea or additions to it? This is quite interesting. It would be curious to see to what extent. I mean, obviously, the obvious analog here is with signed languages. That's something that's done physically and visually. So it seems kind of like an obvious parallel. But I would suspect that by taking in the whole array of things we can do with our arms and our hands and our fingers in combination, you could probably get a lot more information density there than with just what you can do with your face. And I'm not sure, but I suspect that maybe not formally, but as in spoken language, facial expressions will influence sign language. I mean, if you say the exact same thing with different facial expressions, it can have a different meaning. So I'm going to assume it's going to be the same for sign languages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it will have a different pragmatic meaning, not a different semantic meaning. But despite, and also, I think we would be able to do less with your face. Is kind of the point I'm getting at there. But I think this is a really interesting idea. I'm not aware of anyone having done this before. And I'm thinking, I think different people would have different levels of ability to articulate different parts of their face. Like I can move my ears, and I can. What? I can.
You can move your ears.
Yeah.
Huh. That's it. I can't move my ears. Can you roll your tongue?
No, I can't. I can't curl my tongue up, and I can flare my nostrils.
I can't flare my nostrils. That's
But
witchcraft.
I can't move my eyes independently, which some people can.
What?
I can't move my eyes independently.
No, I heard you. That was like exclamation mark what? People can move their eyes independently.
Yeah.
How? Like, what? Hold on.
It's just it's a thing people can do.
Really? This isn't the thing though where you look to the side and then you look to your left hand side and then go cross-eyed, and it gives the illusion that the left facing eye from the person's perspective is moving independently when it's not really.
I don't know.
People can move their eyes independently.
I'm pretty sure your doubt is making, like, the fact that you're so surprised by it is making me
Hold on. Let me
suspicious now. Yeah, independent eye control. Yeah.
Hold on.
Like the reverse of crossing your eyes. Like, people can make their eyes go in opposite directions.
Oh no, that's weird. No, that's oh god. Nope, not for that. I have never seen that before, and that is horrifying.
I remember seeing somewhere, or hearing somewhere that like some kind of specific helicopter pilot, in some military role had to learn, to qualify for that position, you had to learn to move your eyes independently so you could keep track of all the different things that the pilot had to see.
Wait, hold on. So this is a learned skill? I thought this would be then like ear movement where you either can or can't do it.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot of scientific data on this, but I remember hearing that all right, yeah.
That's fascinating. I never realized this was a thing. There you go.
Yeah.
The problems I have with the language, if I may, sorry, Sid.
Yep.
Is I suppose sign language suffers from this as well, given the constraints. But I think the facial expression language would suffer from it more. Is that communication, like at a distance and in less than optimal conditions, is going to be really difficult. That would be a factor to take in, because I mean, like, even just from like a person standing across the road, if they're like moving their eyes in a certain way, like I may or may not pick up on that. Do you know what I mean? But at least with sign language, you have like elaborate hand movements, and you can do it at a distance. So the distance factor is reduced with that language, and also I think it would lose. I think as conlangers, we sometimes forget about the importance of like, what's the term for these things? Like there's a word for it, but like non-dictionary meanings. It's extra lexical or something like that. But like, you know, the idea of like a smile or a nod or rolling your eyes up to heaven, they kind of are important sort of
kind of like paralinguistic
stuff. They're kind of important supplementary things to an actual language, and I think a language would be a lot less richer if it didn't have all that stuff, as in if all that stuff had to be the language and you didn't have anything to supplement the language. Now, obviously, if there's some sort of physical constraint that makes it such that you must do a facial expression language, that point is null and void. But if you're just making a facial expression language just because you think it's cool, I think it's really sad that you lose all the paralinguistic stuff. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot of important meaning in it. I like the feature though. I like the idea that like a smile would be literally prescribed, like literally written down like a smile. I think that's really really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough, and I think this whole challenge that you set out to people is a really tough thing because the constraints are so difficult. And I love the way people keep emailing with like suggestions. And I was like, when you mentioned that back in an earlier show, I was like, no one's ever going to write in. This is too.
Because that was like the third episode or something.
Yeah, and we're still getting emails of people being like, I've cracked it, I've got one, and it's like. Like fair play to everyone for giving us a go, because I would have just been like, no man, I'm watching Netflix instead. But yeah, cool concept, but there would be a lot of problems. Or unless, actually the other point I was meant to say, unless this facial expression language is perhaps for some sort of alien, in which case you can give them like, big heads or, tentacles or whatever.
Yeah.
And that counts as facial expression, in which case there might be actually a really rich vocabulary to explore there. But in terms of like facial expression languages for humans, there's lots of problems with like distance and recognition and things like that. So those are my thoughts.
It could be like a secret language, like a way of like covertly communicating. Like if you're in a situation where you can't make where you can't say something for fear of being discovered, or you need to convey a message for whatever reason silently, you could use this. It's quite interesting from that point of view. Like how there used to be did you ever see there were stories of, I think it was American prisoners of war in Vietnam that were forced to give interviews and record interviews as saying that they had changed allegiance and they were supporters of the North Vietnamese now, and they blinked messages in Morse code, and their captors never picked up on this, and the footage was shown in America, and it was seen that they were like blinking for help or sending out a message that they didn't actually believe this, what they were being forced to say.
Oh wow! I never heard.
Isn't that cool?
Isn't that really cool? That's really cool. How would the Vietnamese people not pick up on this? Like
it was the guy who was blinking a lot, but they didn't pick up that it was specifically blinking Morse code. Apparently, is how the story goes.
If I was them, I would have been like, "What's wrong with this?" Like immediately, I would have been like, "There's something up here. Like, why is he blinking 1,000 times a second here?"
Well, he can do it quite slowly.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Well done to them for evading that way. That's really cool. But yeah, I suppose there will be a kind of a component to that, but also like the flip side of that argument is that we kind of already do this with our language. One does not need to invent an entire language to be able to communicate like this. We can do this.
How? Like
the way you said about when you can't speak, for example, you'd use like, how many times have you been at a party, for example, and you want to talk to someone and you can't get their or you can't like call them or whatever, and they're looking at you and you just kind of roll your eyes and nod your head backwards, and that means come over here. Like we do this already in our language.
Yeah, but it's not a language. That's paralinguistic again. So this is taking the mechanisms that we use for paralinguistic purposes and making something more linguistic out of it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think the problem with the facial thing again is also that you just don't want to make a paralinguistic clone. Do you know what I mean? As in, you don't want to just like notate all the paralinguistic stuff that we do and then go, hey, language, when it wouldn't really be a language. Just like the point you made there. Like if you're going to do it, you have to make it an actual genuine language and not just a notation of what we do. I think. But yeah, but it's an interesting idea. I might sound like I'm coming across overly critical of it. I actually think it's kind of cool. It's an interesting idea. It'd be interesting to see where it goes.
Agreed.
Anything else in the mailbag?
Anything else in the mailbag? We've got one more. Let me check here. we've got an email from Nico Lepka, and yeah, they've written an RPG system. Now, I only saw this yesterday. I hadn't checked the emails for a little while, so I haven't had a chance to read it. But I guess we can throw the link in the show notes.
Yeah, I would say that they open up their email saying, "Hey, you guys have experience with RPGs." Now, Bill has some experience with RPGs. I have minimal. Like, I enjoy the concept of them, and if they were to happen, I'd try and come along. But my experience is very, very minimal. So, if it's okay with Nico, I think we should put this in the show notes. And we should let people who perhaps have more experience go through it. Because so TLDR, what they've done is they've worked on their own RPG and they're looking for some feedback. So if there's anyone in Artifexia who knows a lot about RPGs, have a look. And I think that could be more benefit to you, Nico, than we could be. But I did have a look through it, and from my perspective, it looked solid. Like it read like a D&D rule book sort of thing. There was nothing in it where I was kind of like, this seems stupid or this is weird. It all looked really solid, and had I not realized it came from someone from Artifexia, it would have been like a sort of professional publication sort of thing. So yeah, I think it looks really good. The thing that I want to bring up kind of as a meta point around all of this, and I wanted to talk to you, Bill, about it, is the idea of how accessible RPGs are. Because every time I pick up like a Pathfinder handbook or Nico's work, they're always really dense. I get the impression that unless you've grown up with RPGs or have been involved in them for a long time, they're really hard to get into. Like the concept of me becoming a GM right now is just crazy because the amount of literature you have to like go through. So I wonder, is there a market for someone creating an RPG that's like extremely accessible? Now Nico has done something like that here, but I'm talking like you can hand it to anyone and they can kind of get into it. They don't have to have any preconceived notions about RPGs. Thoughts on that?
I think there is. There's a couple of ways of doing that, but I think having enough rules to be able to deal with different situations is part of what makes it an RPG rather than a very scripted board game or something, or just like literally playing out a scenario. Like you have to build into it flexibility for the characters to make decisions. And if you're playing Cluedo, you can't, take a sledgehammer and break down the wall between two of the rooms. Because that's not how the game works. You have to, go by the game board. But you can do that in an RPG, and you have to be able to account for players doing stuff like that. So there's an inherent complexity in the concept because of the unpredictability of player characters.
Yeah, but like, does that necessarily require a tome worth of rules? Like,
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, because
not everything. I don't think every game system necessarily does have that. I think it's kind of seems there's two approaches into game design. There's a simulationist and I think just gamified, something like that. I can't remember what the terms are. But one is to make things really realistic. That you have a load of different skills, and you actually try and reflect a realistic balance of different tasks. And the other is that you make it like a game. Like you can spend points to achieve certain things. Like there's a thing called Trail of Cthulhu. Is one RPG system, and you have points in different classes or in different skills. So say you have 3 points in investigation. You can spend a point in investigation to like find out something, or you can spend 3 to find out something really, really obscure, and then they're gone. Which is more clearly based around storytelling and how narrative works and how beats work in a film or in fiction than it is to do with realism about what people can actually do, if you get me.
Yeah. Yeah, to be honest, the latter sounds much more appealing.
The narrative one.
Yeah, to me, because, I was thinking about this last night, and I was kind of like, aren't we all doing role-playing games to, like, create our narrative, you know? We're not really, like, D&D players, there is an element, obviously, of character design and, like, picking out really cool skill sets and all on feats and things like that, but really, we're going there to, like, immerse ourselves in a story. Like, when we played D&D, I enjoyed going because I was like, oh, I wonder what part of Bill's world we're now going to experience. So
Yeah.
the latter that you bring up there sounds like a way of expediting that. Like, you don't have to spend many hours, if you're a novice, working on all of the, like, you know, skills and feats and characters and understanding complex rule sets. It's kind of like show up, minimal effort, play, and experience the story. That sounds much better to me than I think what D&D and Pathfinder does. But maybe I'm a bit basic in this regard. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's just a different priority. I wouldn't say one is necessarily better than the other. My preference would probably lean more towards simulationist.
Right. Why? What is it about that appeals to you?
Because I like with the example that I gave, you know, you spend your points on investigation or research or whatever. It just sounds like it's not plausible to me. I mean, it makes sense from a story point of view that you don't want one character in the story of, you know, of an ensemble cast doing everything. But just because I won a fight yesterday doesn't mean that I shouldn't be able to win a fight today. Like, it's...
But then do you get aggravated around other games that aren't tabletop that have a similar mechanic, like a currency sort of mechanic?
No, but if it's presented as currency, then it's not the same thing.
No, well, I mean currency as in, like, you have X points, you could spend them to do whatever. Like, I'm not saying literal, like
you have mana or something.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Like, do you get aggravated if you were to play a PlayStation game, for example, and it had a mechanic like that? Like, the mage spends 2 magic to be able to do whatever, or like the example you use, you spend 2 of your investigation points. Like, is it something that's tied to the tabletop?
No, because that's more gamified for me, because it's just represents a recharging of power or something. I don't know. That makes a lot more sense to me.
Okay. Interesting. Well, you and I, it never ceases to amaze me how different you and I are. With, like, nearly everything, I'm kind of like, oh, I like it this way, and then you're always on the polar opposite, and yet somehow we get on, which I think is great.
Do we?
Do we really though? Do we really? I'm in it for the lost mornings and the hours and hours of having to listen to Edgar. That's what I'm in it for.
I only like the things I hate.
I again, just to summarize the whole thing, I am firmly in the belief, though, I think that there is a need for someone to create a more novice friendly system. Because I should have put this at the start of the whole bit, but I didn't. I was approached about doing another D&D session, like joining in, and I hadn't played since we played in college. And the guy shows up, and I was like, "Okay, what do you want me to play as?" And then he was like, "What?" And I was like, yeah, just tell me what you're missing, and I will be that character. Like, I'm not interested in sitting down and doing all the crafting sort of nonsense, crafting a character and all that. Just, I want to show up and experience the story. And it's like, no, we don't do that. And then we sat there for ages going over, like, oh, if you choose this, then at, like, level 10, you'll have, like, this. And then, oh, but maybe it'd be a better idea to choose this thing. And then when you get to there, do this thing. And I'm like, my brain is melted. Like no comprende. Like, it's just, why can't it just be like a simple sort of like mage? There we go. Like, I don't know, maybe there's just a lot of bloatware in the Pathfinder and D&D sort of thing that is a bit opaque.
Splat is the local term for when there's too many books.
Splat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Splat books is
Wait,
like...
so it's hang on. So it's a known problem then.
Yeah, having too many options is a no. But that's different. That's a kind of another design issue. It's not the same as the simulationist versus game.
Right, but it also
issue.
it extends into rules as well, though, where there's like too many rules, like too many available options in the rule set. Whereas I think a much more minimalist approach in terms of like the rule set and character design and skills and feats, it would be better for non-seasoned players. I'd imagine the hardcore D&D
But that's
players,
up to a GM to say, we are going to use these rules and this is what's allowed in the game. Like you could say, we're only going to use the core rulebook. You know, we're not going to have any of the like weird variance skill systems or like experimental classes from other rulebooks. We're just going to use the core rulebook.
Okay, does the core rulebook run a lot of bloatware, or would you consider that to be a rather sleek document?
I mean, it's fairly comprehensive, but you can do a lot with it. You could do. I mean, you could do it with less, certainly. And there are like there's the beginner box, which is a simplified and reduced version of the rules for Pathfinder.
Good. There you go. That's all I needed to hear. The fact that is an option for people is great, because again, speaking as someone who's not heavily involved in the tabletop world, it is sometimes very daunting approaching it. But the fact that they've made a thing for people there, I think is great. It's a really good thing.
I don't like with beginner players like saying, oh, you know, if you do this, you can take this option at level 10. I think it's more fun to learn by playing what the options are. And if you make a ridiculous character, your first couple of characters, then that's only going to be part of the fun for me. I don't like that the building really mechanically that way.
Yeah, that's fair actually. And I think when you sat down with me to do character creation, you encourage that sort of behavior. Like that druid I built with you. You were very much kind of like, what do you like? And I was like, I'd like to hit people really hard. You're like, okay, this is how we do that. And then you encourage stuff like maybe take a flaw, like take a hit on something. But there was no talk of kind of like, all right, you want to be a druid, great. At level 5, it'll be this, and you'll have that. So yeah, maybe a lot of my negative response to tabletops maybe based on like the people I've been surrounded by, barring you.
I'm just a great GM is what it is.
Bill, you're just a great human being in general. This whole podcast is here to support that idea.
Stroking my ego, it's all it's about.
But yeah, anyhow, so yeah, I will tweet at Nico and see if he's okay with this. See if they're okay with this going in the show notes, because I think we're not the best people to criticize this work and pick it apart. I think there'll be someone in Artifexia who will be as close to an expert as we can get. Sure. Cool. All right, shall we do some follow up?
I've got one more. Well, this is kind of follow up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all the same. It's all one big thing. Yeah, go on. What are you gonna say?
I've got one more quick point to make from follow up-y stuff before we move on to Reddit.
Cool.
I encountered an Artifexian in the wild.
Again?
Yes.
Okay. Or was this in the wild, or was this in the wild on the internet?
On the internet.
Okay. Tell us the story. I will sit back, regale us with the tale.
It's very brief, but it was in fact only last night on one of the conlanging groups on Facebook. Someone posted the question, "How do I start a conlang?" So I linked your how to create a language playlist.
Thanks, man.
And I was recognised by another commenter. So Thomas, hello if you're listening.
Hi, Thomas.
And he says he's been listening to it. He's on his 4th listen through.
His 4th?
Apparently so. So he says.
Thomas, okay? Like, I don't know. Like, are you okay, man? Is this like this is not normal behavior, man? I'd get this scene too. Listen to us once is enough.
Edgar, if anything, this is exemplary behavior.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. Bill has his marketing hat on. Yes, Artifexia. We all need to take a leave out of Thomas's book, and we need to listen to the show on repeat.
And yeah, he plugged the podcast for us, and
cool.
and he said he was looking forward to the next episode. So, well, here's the next episode.
Here's hoping it's not a major disappointment.
Good to meet you, and thanks for the support.
Cool. That's really cool. You keep seeing everyone, huh? That's
twice now. I haven't been recognized it in meat space yet.
In meat space. Remember the last episode where we published the video live?
Yeah.
And I pinned your first tweet. It was really funny where people were kind of like, why did Artifexian pin this tweet? Because they obviously aren't podcast listeners, so they don't know the name Bill McGrath.
Excellent.
There was a lot of confusion. I was kind of like, yes, this is good.
Who's this guy?
Hi Thomas. Thanks for listening. It's really cool. Can I say a thing then about Bill? Because that's a nice tangent into this next Reddit topic.
Yeah.
So we got a comment on the Reddit from a heptavolt, a u/heptavolt, who writes, "Tonight I stopped for gas, and the tiny TV screen started playing a sports highlight featuring ... I couldn't believe my eyes ... Bill Polian." And when I read this, I was like, we made it on the telly? What's happening? And then it turns out, and I don't know if you have the link in front of you. If not, I will send it to you. There is a guy who is like is it NFL? He's like an NFL analyst whose name is literally Bill Polian. Like first name Bill, second name Polian. And it was just great. So there was a moment of going, oh my God, we've made it, we've gone mainstream. And then a moment of going, no, we haven't, but this is hilarious. So I just wanted to put that on the show. Bill Polian is an actual thing. So not only has Bill Murray completely all over the Bill Polian thing, there's an actual real life Bill Polian as well. And it's like, oh, I can't catch a break here. Like... we got another interesting comment on the Reddit that I want to bring up, and this is from friend of the show Zidnaf, who messaged me privately and was like, "I'm really sorry about the comment I just left. It's a bit harsh." He was not at all impressed with our misunderstanding of what pigeons and creoles are. So, for the sake of rightness, I'm going to read it out. But before I do, I just need to state, because this is a good point to bring up in general. Most of what we talk about on this show, we don't have a clue about. Like the show is kind of meant to be two guys who like this shared hobby get together and talk about it and extemporize on it. Most of the time, I haven't done a whole load of research into a thing, and something will come up and be like, oh, I should bring that up with Bill and have a chat, and then if it piques my interest afterwards, I'll go research it properly. So please don't hold what we say on the podcast to an extremely high standard. It's very, very conversational, and I think that's important. Assume that we are wrong all the time. Don't be like, oh, they said that on the podcast, it must be correct.
Speak for yourself.
Bill, don't even lie. I know you're not doing hours and hours of research, because the thing is, I am envious of you and your ability to show up and know all this stuff off the fly. Like, it's crazy.
I didn't say I was doing hours and hours of research. I said that I don't. I just said that I don't not know what I'm talking about all of the time.
Well, I'd say, okay, same. I'm obviously not. I obviously know what I'm speaking about sometimes, but just as a general thing, assume on podcasts, I think in general, assume conversationality and assume that it's not research. I think that's really important, you know? Like, we're not presenting something, well, I hope we're not presenting a thing as like being extremely factual, you know? Like, as in, now we're going to tell you the state of whatever. We're talking about things, and there's going to lead to a whole load of speculation. and a whole load of like back and forth and throwing ideas around and being like, what even is a language? I don't know what a language is. Maybe it's this. I was thinking it's more like that. We're bouncing ideas. So I think that's important to bring up. Anyhow, Zidnaf writes, so with all due respect, I get the impression that Bill and Edgar maybe don't know what technically makes a language a pidgin or a creole. A pidgin is a language that arises when two linguistic groups without a language in common create a simple means to communicate with each other based on one or both, usually both, of their languages. Part of the definition is that the resulting language has a very limited vocabulary and very simple grammatical rules, simpler than either of the source languages. It's a sort of lowest common denominator of the two languages. Another part of the definition is that no one speaks it natively. If anyone speaks it natively, that's a pidgin. That's not a pidgin, it's a creole. A creole, then, is a language with a community of native speakers that evolved out of a pidgin. Creoles happen when children are exposed to pidgins so much that it becomes a native language for them. However, creoles are much more complicated than pidgins, since they kind of need to be for people to actually use them in a broad set of contexts in normal everyday life. And Zidnaf goes on after that. But I think I'm assuming Zidnaf knows what he's talking about. That sounds like a pretty solid definition of what pidgins and creoles are. And also, there's a whole load of people on the subreddit who pointed out that, all the reasons why English couldn't be considered like a pidgin or a creole or French, and how you can't just make a language and call it a pidgin or a creole because there's all these sort of things to it. So just want to put it on the show for sake of rightness. Mm-hmm. That, assuming Zidnaf is correct, is what a pidgin and what a creole is. And we were speculating in the last show. Yeah?
That's all entirely fair, and there's nothing to worry about there, Zidnaf. My question is about like making a language and saying that it's a pidgin. Or saying that it's a pidgin or a creole. And I posted this as a reply to Zidnaf's comment yesterday. If someone was to encounter a language, like say they had sample texts and they had a grammar of a language, would it be possible for a linguist to reasonably consistently identify it as a pidgin or a creole? Let's say a creole. To identify it as a creole without knowing anything about languages it was derived from. If they were just given this language, could they look at it and based on its features say, I think this is a creole? That seems unlikely to me.
Yeah, sort of like seeing it out of context.
Like if you were just given, say, okay, or say you're given four texts for four languages, and you've got like texts and grammars and things, would a linguist reliably be able to identify which one is a creole?
Based on no information, my gut would say no.
In which case, I would say it's not unreasonable to create a language and say this language is a pidgin, like in a conlanging setting.
Yeah, not a creole. Like maybe a pidgin would be easier to identify because of the basic nature. Like if you have, like if we assume the pigeons are basic in their morphology, for example, you might be able to spot that. But if you were creoles seem to be more complicated, so maybe then that would make it harder to identify.
What's the difference between a basic morphology and a complex morphology?
I mean, just more limited. Just more limited. Like if you have a fully, like if someone were to present like Elvish or like whatever it's called, Sindarin. Is that the name of the thing?
I don't know.
Okay, I think it's Sindarin. One a Quenya. There we go. Let's if you take Quenya and you hand a Quenya to a linguist, like that's got like a big, deep, like vocabulary, and there's lots going on, and it's like fully fleshed out. So I would imagine the linguist then would be, if asked, is this a pidgin? They'd be kind of like, maybe there's a bit much here to be a pidgin. Maybe it's Creole. I don't know. But I still think your point stands though from earlier that out of context, I don't see how one could identify. Because I'm assuming the only way of identifying...
If you were given comparative examples of usage then, if you were just given like, language used for trade and stuff. That, you know, you didn't have that outside context. Like, oh, well, here's its great ancestral epic poem literature. It's probably not going to be a pigeon.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think you're correct though. I think you are right. I
would be curious to see an answer for that. Is all.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, so far I'm with you on that. Anyhow, TLDR, thanks for writing in, Zidnaf. As always, we appreciate when people call out any sort of like blunders that we make and things like that. It's really important.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, and that was a really nicely...
That's how you get better.
That's how you get better, slowly but surely, and begrudgingly. What's it called? That was a really nice summation of what pigeons and creoles are, and I think that just helped solidify an awful lot of the back and forth we did in the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Shall we go on to our Christmas tradition of listening of talking about Star Wars?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Star Wars Astral Conflicts Ultimate Wizards.
Yes, Astral Conflicts Ultimate Wizards. In breaking with our tradition of going down to your house at Christmas time and watching it, events unfolded such that couldn't happen this year, so we had to watch it separately, which was very sad.
Separately, very sad.
Very, very sad indeed. So I have no idea about your reaction to this film, and you have no idea about mine, because I have not read your stuff online and I have not posted anything. So we are really going into this fresh. So I am
completely fresh.
I am dying to hear, what did you think?
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it. Do you want to give a brief sort of TLDR on that before we pick it apart?
Okay, I enjoyed the experience of watching it up until the final act, more or less. It was way too long.
Right.
I felt it was way, way too long. Like I thought it could have ended, time-wise, it could have ended... Okay, spoilers from this point, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Time-wise, I thought it could have ended around the bit where they landed on the salt plains, the planet with the salt plains, like the final act.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of, it kept dragging on for me from that point. There was stuff I enjoyed in it. I think Kylo Ren is a great villain. I really like Kylo Ren, as a character. And there were the fight scene against Snoke, like in Snoke's big chamber, and then fighting his kind of Imperial Guard or whatever. That was pretty cool. It was a little, maybe a little overwrought, and at points, but you know, it was impressive. But as I said, I felt it was overlong, and I felt that they kept trying to do things and then pulling away from it. Like there was my issue largely with The Force Awakens was that it was essentially a straight remake of New Hope. It was practically identical, and it was really interesting in this film to see how the younger characters, the newer generation of characters, interacted with the older generation of characters. As you know, because at the end of the Force Awakens, or near the end of Force Awakens, Kylo Ren kills Han Solo, so he can no longer be an influence. And then for a lot of this film, Luke refuses to act. He won't do anything. He's kind of in the sort of depressive, morose state and in seclusion. And General Organa is out there doing stuff, but she's constricted by circumstances. She doesn't have the power to do things, really. And then a little way into the film, she's incapacitated. Mm-hmm. So they've neutered the older characters that kind of dominated the universe so far. And the younger characters, Finn and Rey and Poe, are fixing things. And there's this really symbolic moment after the fight between Kylo Ren and Rey in Snoke's chamber where they're fighting for possession of Luke's lightsaber. And then it breaks in two. They're both force pulling on it such that it comes apart. And that's class. That's a really powerful symbolic moment. It's rejecting the idea that these characters are just living in the shadow of the previous generation and they're creating their own stories. That's taking Luke out of the equation. Breaking his lightsaber. That's really visually powerful and symbolically powerful. And I thought, this is great. This is absolutely brilliant. And then at the end, Luke shows up and saves the day. And it ruined it for me. It ruined that moment for me. And then that fight with Luke at the end, they kept kind of having things happen and then faking out on them. So, Luke turns up and then the First Order, they shoot him with all their artillery and stuff and he walks out unscathed. And you're like, oh no, Luke's been killed, but he's fine. And then he goes down and he fights Kylo Ren, and at one point, Kylo Ren slices the lightsaber through him, but actually Luke's fine. And it's like, oh, okay, this is getting kind of weird. So now you've kind of cheated us twice, and then it turns out Luke was just a ghost anyway, so it doesn't matter. They kept doing things and then undercutting the import and the relevance of the things they were doing, and everything felt really irrelevant to me. That's my... Well, TLDR isn't really that. That's the short version.
How do you think I responded to this film?
I have no idea whatsoever.
Gut instinct. Do you think this would be an Edgar film or not an Edgar film?
I don't want to say anyone who likes it is bad or wrong, but I just want to make that clear. I'm going to go with didn't like it.
Okay.
More or less on a coin flip.
Okay. I didn't like it.
Okay.
I did not like the film. It was... Because it was doing something different, I'm inclined to put it above Force Awakens in terms of how good a film it is. But it was not a good film.
Yeah.
I think you're dead right. It was way too long. I hated every bit of humor they tried to put in that film. The humor was obnoxious. There was
a lot of really bad stuff in it, yeah.
Really, really terrible stuff. I hated every single animal in the film. They were all stupid and they didn't need to be there, and I hated them, especially those little owl things that lived on Luke's island. Just stop it. It's just stupid. What are we doing? I disliked... Yeah, you like Kylo Ren. I now do not like Kylo Ren. They've gone... I don't know. They've done... I can't decide, have they done weird stuff with Kylo Ren or have they just not done anything with Kylo Ren? But he's gone from kind of being a cool, mysterious bad guy to just a little bit lost. I don't understand his purpose at all. Why is he so obsessed with the dark side? What is his driving force? That's not really a thing. I think it's he wants to be Vader. Okay, fine, but it's not exactly an entirely, you don't have, that doesn't get the hooks in, so to speak. And then because of that, it's kind of well, why is he fighting with the light side? But we haven't really established why it was a dark side. As bad as Anakin in the prequels was, we understood why he was turning dark. Abandonment and anger over what's happened to his mother, and anger at the Jedi Order for being for supposedly, or in his mind, being corrupted and things like that. There was a reason for it, but I can't think of a reason for Kylo to be like that other than he's just an angry teenager, which may be the point. I just don't like it. It's the whole thing was just a bit of a mess. Flying Leia was one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life. What were they doing? What? The love story between Finn and Rose was so ham-fisted that when they kissed at the end, I was like, oh, that was a thing? Wait, you didn't set that up well at all. where did that come from? It was ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, it just, the whole thing is awful. And then, like, the decision making on behalf of everyone on the film is shocking. Like, you won the commander or the admiral who takes over when Leia is incapacitated. Why don't you just tell your underlings that you have this plan instead of going like, I'm not telling you anything, just stay in your station? Like, tell people so that they can help with the plan. And at the same sense, like, Poe and stuff, stop doing things that just undermine everything that you're trying to achieve. And it's like, the whole thing is just, it really wasn't very good at all. And I think, the sad thing is, I think I am done with Star Wars.
Really?
I think I'm done. I think there is. I was sitting in the theater last night. I was kind of like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing? Like, it's like there is no. I'm only going to this thing because it's an established thing. Like, the past 5 movies have been underwhelming, excluding Rogue One, have been horrifically underwhelming. Some more than others, and it's like, I'm going to this because it's Star Wars, and it's the only reason. There's nothing in this universe anymore that I like, so why am I doing it? So I imagine when the next film rolls along, I'm going to think twice about going to it, because like, why am I contributing money to this like corporate sort of like marvelized universe sort of thing? Like, it's just, it's not for me anymore. I think Disney have taken it and have properly killed it, I think.
Are they worse than the prequels?
See, all right, now here's the thing where people are going to get very angry at me. I like the prequels. Because, all right, so it's hard to explain with the prequels because, well, no, it's not. It's just, it's hard to explain from a logical point of view. The prequels came at just the right time. Like, I was, I think, 12 or something when Phantom Menace hit. So I was like the correct age for them. And like, everything about Phantom Menace as a movie for a 12-year-old was amazing. Like, I loved it. Like, it had a sense of adventure, and it had like intrigue, and the characters were cool. I even liked Jar Jar as a 12-year-old. It's only now that I've grown up and like can reflect back on it and look at it from a movie making point of view that I don't like it. But it imprinted on me. Attack of the Clones less so, and then the third one is a really good movie. But they kind of imprinted on me, and nothing that is happening now is imprinting on me at all. So from a emotional point of view, the prequels are working better than these on me.
Right.
That is not a logical position to have, because they're objectively not good films. But I'm still of the opinion that no Star Wars film is a good film. There are good Star Wars films and there are bad Star Wars films, but none of the films are good films in a filmic sort of sense, I think.
Right.
So yeah, I was disappointed, Bill, and I'm a little bit saddened,
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I don't know. It's a weird place to be in. I was expecting you to like it.
Really?
Yeah. I thought you would have liked some of the subversion that they were trying to do, but clearly not.
We see, I liked that they tried to do it, and had they followed through on it, I would have liked it a lot more.
Your criticisms of Luke, though, I don't think they're entirely valid. I think what they were trying to do was, like, obviously they were going to like kill off Luke. Like, that was, the whole thing.
He's not even dead as such, though. He's ascended to the Force.
Right, but as in, like, don't make him a character that will follow around for the rest of the films. Like, I feel like we're very much in kill the old things off and just start new, which is entirely fine. And I think if you're going to kill off Luke, being like the main man sort of thing, elevate him to the point of being almost like mythological. And they did that with the ghost stuff, and he solved everything and he came back. So they like built him up with this like demigod sort of thing, and then he went. And I think that had kind of a cool religious connotation to it. I get that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I get that it's very Deus Ex Machina. Like, Luke comes in, saves everyone, But
the whole film was Deus Ex Machina after Deus Ex Machina.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. It was fun. The Battlestar Galactica bit. I like the Battlestar Galactica bit where they're kind of like they're tracking us through light speed, and every time we like they don't jump, but every time they in inverted
Yeah.
commas jump, it's like they're right behind us. And I was like, I was sitting there going, really want to watch Battlestar Galactica now.
You know what made me think of Battlestar Galactica?
Go on, what?
At the start, when they're evacuating the planet, and then they look up and they see the Star Destroyers like come into orbit.
Oh,
like
yeah.
They see them jump in. Remember the spoilers for Battlestar Galactica here. Remember at the end of, is it season 2 or season 3, where the Galactica jumps into the atmosphere of New Caprica, and like it launches the Vipers as it's dropping.
Oh, yeah.
And then they all land again, and then it jumps out before it hits the ground. That's like, I lost my mind when I watched that bit. That was so cool. That's one of my favorite bits in television.
Battlestar Galactica is up there with the best space media I've ever seen. Like
it's an amazing show for being so good. Despite the fact that only like half of it they had a clue what they were doing.
Did they? I don't know the sort of meta stuff around it.
Oh, they didn't have a clue where it was going when they started writing it. Like, they got to the end of season 2, and then I think they had used up most of what they'd planned. They still didn't know who the rest of the Cylons were. They hadn't, like, set up the thing about the final 5 turning out to be what they turned out to be.
Oh.
Yeah, like, it's bananas. Like, it's just, like, and that's why it gets so weird from season 3 onwards. That's why, like, it brings in the kind of the more religious stuff.
Yeah, it was funny. When I first watched Battlestar Galactica, I didn't really like all the religious stuff. And then the religious stuff seemed to crop up more and more in the content I was consuming. Like, afterwards, I had watched Deep Space Nine, and that has a heavy religious bent to it. And then when my brain kind of became okay with there being religious stuff in a technological setting, I went back and had a look, and I was like, no, it really works. It really works. It's a really, really great show. But anyway, yeah, we're not here to review Battlestar Galactica. We're here to review Last Jedi, unfortunately.
Some more assorted points, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the romance was terrible. Like I liked Rose as a character. And I quite like Finn as a character because he's not really a hero. He just kind of like he bumbles for a lot of the film and he's kind of reluctant at the start and stuff. And I enjoyed that, and so I enjoyed that arc. But just like it felt really like I hate romance in films and media in general. Anyway, it just doesn't interest me. Yes, Edgar, I'm dead inside or something, I'm sure.
No, it's what makes that funny is that like there are entire genres just built up on being a romance, and it's like I hate all that.
Yeah, I care about maybe one romance in like the history of the fiction I've consumed.
Oh,
so I didn't like that. I'm just sick of the good guys in Star Wars like relying on luck and hope and faith and the Force. Would you not try being good at war? Like, just try it. Like, just try tactics.
Yeah, I agree. There was an awful lot of talk about, like, a hope has died today. And I'm like, yeah, well, if you just don't cop on, you're going to die today.
Yeah, and, like, a lot of that is directly Poe Dameron's fault.
Yeah, this is the thing I was saying earlier. Like, Poe and his sort of like, I'm doing this thing now. And you're like, no, hang on. Chain of command here, pal. Right?
Yeah.
You can't just go renegade and do whatever the hell you want because you think it's a good idea. Stick to the chain of command and things will work out fine, like.
No, and I'm fine with that. As a story of like they need to learn these lessons and they need to be they can't be trusted, and that their failure to observe the discipline has negative consequences. And there's a lot of people saying, well, actually, it's the women who solve a lot of the problems in the film until Luke comes and saves the day at the end. They should have listened to Leia. They should have listened to the Vice Admiral. But they don't suffer any negative consequences for what they did. Like everyone, all of their friends die and they like destroy the resistance, but it's all fine in the end. By the way the film is written, they just kind of get away with it and it's okay, and they're still trusted.
Yeah, that's
So like while there were consequences in general, they themselves did not feel them, and the writing of the film didn't show that they suffered anything.
yeah, like Michael from Star Trek. She got court-martialed
Yeah.
for doing stuff that like Poe Dameron did, and Poe Dameron's just like everything's fine, it's grand, everyone's cool. No, I totally agree with that. 100% agree with that. Um, yeah, it just they didn't seem to think things through logically, as in like what would these characters actually do if this was real, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty poor. Do you know what one of the lowest points? If I can just jump in and throw stuff at you.
Yes, I do know what one of the lowest points is.
Oh, okay. Would it be?
Can I guess?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
The fight between Finn and Captain Phasma with the really terrible dialogue.
No.
Okay.
No. Clearly, the lowest point is the stupid casino nonsense.
That didn't really bother me one way or another. It was just a thing. It was just another setting.
Oh no, it was awful. And then
although it had plucky kids at the end, and I am as actively disinterested in plucky kids as I am in romance.
No, I'm going to disagree with you here. I don't think they were plucky kids. Are you on about the kid at the very, very end?
No, the kids in the stables. They're only there briefly, but they annoyed me. They were like there long enough to annoy me.
Okay, well, because one of the kids in the stables comes at the very, very end, and I thought that was a brilliant moment. Because it wasn't plucky kids, like they weren't doing kids humor and jumping around the place and like, woo, this is pod racing sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was just it was shot really well. It was like, just get the kid to like look at the sky, you know, show the ring on their finger. Just like, don't have them do any acting and stuff because they're children and children are terrible on screen. So I thought they handled the kids quite well in this.
I mean, at the end, I guess, but even then, like when they were playing and telling the stories, at the end, I found them kind of annoying. But even just their presence and their attire at the start was like they were trying to be the little rascals or something. I didn't like it.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to disagree with you on the casino bit, Bill. I thought it was just like it was terrible. It was so bad, and like I didn't like the whole style of the thing. It was really prequel-esque, like kind of decadent and shiny, and not really in keeping with what I think Star Wars should be. But also like all the little gags they had in it, like there was this little Monopoly Man alien who like stuffed BB-8 full of coins because he thought
like
he
a
was
cross between Monopoly Man and the Gremlins.
Yeah, it was really weird. And it also wasn't great CGI either, which is never good. And they did such a good job in Force Awakens with all of the like effects, and this one they just didn't, and it kind of bugged me. But yeah, he stuffs them full of coins, and then later on when they're rescuing the bank robber guy, like BB-8 fires out the coins at the guards, and then it's like, it's just really stupid humor. And like maybe if I was 12 again, I would be like, "Oh, it's hilarious, it's great." But as an adult watching this, I'm just like, "This is kind of pathetic, lads. Like, what's going on here?" And then like the bank rob, and like, oh my god, when you're one the what's her name? Who had the pub in the Force Awakens, the little orange Maz. Remember they called Maz and they're like, oh, you're going to need to find an expert bank robber. Look for the red flower or whatever. And I'm like, why don't you just give the people a name? Like, why, go to this planet, go into this casino and look around for a red flower. Like, this is stupid. Like, should have been like, find John. John is good with this. John is in this casino right now. It's just pointless, absolute pointless. And it's like, and then they just pick up this guy because, reasons. And I actually quite liked the Safecracker's character, but like the whole how he comes into it is just weird. And then like I didn't really like the horse rabbit aliens either. And I didn't like BB-8 in this movie either. BB-8 was just annoying in this movie, and he was great in the last one. Like at the start where he like jams his head into he's trying to fix the ship.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he puts out one tentacle, and then it's like, oh, something sparks off, and then there's another tentacle, and oh, he's all flustered, and then he just like jams his head into the thing, and there's lots of weird noises, and then he later on he like drives and at, and you're like, oh god, everyone stop, just why are we doing this?
I mean, oops. Some of that stuff I didn't mind. Sorry, I dropped my phone there. Some of that stuff I didn't mind because it is a kids' film and there is there needs to be some of that kind of stuff to it. I didn't mind the casino scene all that much because, like you said, it was very visually different from the rest of it, and that makes sense for me because this is kind of the decadent, kind of elite, and they're safe from all of the serious stuff that's happening in the rest of the galaxy. So it visually made sense for me that way. I didn't mind the gambling machine gag with the alien putting coins in BB-8. And I even thought that the shooting them at the guard later was quite funny, and it was a good callback. But like, why did it have to and this is a lot of the problem that I think Star Wars has. The excess of it was kind of what annoyed me. Like, it was like BB-8 shot his own volume in coins at the guards. Like it would have been funny if it had been like 3 or 4.
Yeah. How does he have the space to house all these coins?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's absurd.
Yeah.
And I know you're like thinking too deeply about like the logistics and stuff, but it's just like it's the excess of that bit that kind of annoyed me. Yeah, they're all fair. I don't feel all of those, but I understand all of those. You didn't like the animals. I liked the foxes.
The crystal foxes things.
Yeah, the salt fox things. Yeah, I thought they were cool. I wasn't mad on the porgs. I didn't like the caretakers. They were a bit Jim Henson for me. Not that I've anything. I mean, I love Jim Henson. I love the Muppets, but it didn't gel well.
Yeah, no, and again, there was loads of stupid humor around them, where like stuff breaks and they'd like have mild conniptions, and it's just I didn't like it at all. I have a thing to say about Skellig Michael.
Yeah,
or a thing to ask you. Skellig Michael, for the listeners, is the Luke's island. It's an island off Ireland. How close is Skellig Michael to what we see on screen? Like, although I know on Skellig Michael they have those round huts. Is Luke's little village just pretty much what's on Skellig Michael, or have they done a whole load of effects? So, like, it kind of looks like that, yeah?
I think I've never been, but I think so.
Okay, and like things like the stairway leading up to the peak. I'm assuming that things like that's added in.
No, there is something about a big stairway on one of them. I don't know if it like literally goes to the peak, but there's like a couple of 100 steps leading down a cliff.
And is it as dangerous as that film makes it look?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. And people are allowed to go on Skellig Michael, are they?
Limited. It's very, very limited. It was very difficult for Lucasfilm to get permission to film there.
Oh yeah, apparently they made they like ruined parts of it or something in the last film, and the Irish government got really angry and were like, you can't do that again. Like, come on.
Yeah, I heard something to that effect. I hope it's not true, because obviously it's an important historical and archaeological resource.
I don't know. It makes for a really good locale, but the fact that it is Skellig Michael completely takes me out of the film. I'm just like, really? Oh, this is a tourist Ireland flick, like, because I know it. Like, it's not like it's not like Tatooine. Like, I get that Tatooine is in Morocco. I think it's Morocco. Is it? Yeah, Luke's home place is someplace in Morocco, I think.
I think so.
Yeah, like, I've no context for that, so it may as well be in a galaxy far, far away. But Skellig Michael, I have a context for. Like, I learned about it in school and saw pictures and saw various like tourist Ireland things, and I can't suspend disbelief. Like, I look at that island and go, they're just off the southwestern coast, like and that is obviously a particular problem to me. Like, most people in the world don't care and wouldn't have this problem. But yeah, so yeah, Any other minutia? Anything else on your little list to discuss?
Let me see here. Yeah, there was some really bad dialogue, especially around that fight with Finn and Phasma at the end, when he's like, "Come on, Chrome Dome." It's Jesus. Is it the 80s? Are you standing up to a bully in an 80s film? Is that what's going on?
Yeah. That's it wasn't great.
And it needed more Phasma. Like, maybe they're trying to set up Phasma as to be a kind of Boba Fett sort of character, where like they don't actually do much in the main thing, and then they're going to like make loads of supplementary and background media about them, which I guess would be cool. And Gwendolyn Christie's class.
Yeah, there really wasn't enough for her. She's dead now. She died in that, didn't she? Yeah.
We didn't see her die on screen.
You didn't see her.
We saw her fall into fire. We also saw Boba Fett fall into a Sarlacc. So I'm going to go and say that Phasma is not dead. About the Leia flying thing.
Yeah.
I didn't mind that much.
Oh, Bill, you're so wrong.
I was talking to someone about it. I was talking to a couple of people about it, and it is implied that Leia is Force sensitive a couple of times in the original trilogy.
Yeah, but hang on. Even if we knew she was Force sensitive and that was an established thing, it looked terrible.
Oh yeah, visually it was a little silly looking. Yeah, but as a thing that happened, I didn't mind it. I was like, okay, that's a cool addition to the story.
Hang on. Sorry. Before you go on, but like, it didn't need to happen, right? Like, they could have. All right, okay. You want Leia to not die, right? Don't have her on the bridge at that moment. Like, it's a thing they could have written around so easily, and then there could have been a nice thing where she mourns someone who was on the bridge, and like a connection can be established there. They didn't need to have that happen, and I don't understand the reason for having it happen. Like, it does nothing for the story. Like, Leia just it incapacitates Leia, but again, you can do that. She can be just off the bridge and be injured. It was just stupid. And then also, like, I know we're in Star Wars land where physics don't apply, but like, you die in space. Like,
yeah, but it takes a while.
Yeah, but it's a while. A much better way of dealing with it would be like Michael in Star Trek. The thing in the first episode, the Battle of the Binaries, where she like has to go into space.
Where she likes to like get across the
Right, that was held a lot better because it was kind of like there was a real risk there. Like, this was taking a huge risk. And then as she was flying across the gap, which was like only about 2 seconds, you can see her begin to like shrivel up and die. And it really make you like feel like, oh God, there's danger and stuff like that. But then like the way it's shot, it feels like Leia's drifting around in space for who knows how long. And there seems to be no kind of like danger element. She's just like, serenely lying there, then she budges and moves, and then she like flies over, and it's just that was just it was actually, I think that might be stupider than the casino scene. That was ridiculous, just totally unnecessary and ridiculous, and did nothing but confuse matters, and it's just it's utterly pointless.
My actual issue with that bit is no one mentions it again. You've just seen your general fly in space, and everyone just rolls with it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, she's incapacitated now. It's like, yeah, but what made her incapacitated? That thing. Talk about that thing. Yeah, it's just
like, it's okay. Silly. Your general is Superman, and no one's going to mention it.
I think actually that's another thing why I didn't like it, because it was very Superman-esque, like hand forward, flying in for a little landing on the destroyed bridge. It looked very like a Superman pose. And it just looked stupid.
I'm coming away from thinking I'm fine with it as a thing that happened, but the writing didn't give it the significance that it deserved to. Like, the writing around it didn't give it enough kind of context.
Yeah,
and didn't show its relevance in the world.
Yeah, agreed. I'm agreed with that point. I'm still agreed that it's a thing that maybe shouldn't have happened, and I'm not happy that it happened. But I agree that if you're going to make it happen, deal with the aftermath a little bit better. Okay, so a big criticism people have of the prequel trilogy is that characters spend an awful lot of time separated.
Yeah.
And they're all off doing these different things. And we don't really get a sense of like caring for them as a group or a unit.
Luke
or we don't get
Luke spends Empire Strikes Back crying in a swamp.
Yes, he does.
It's just it's an absurd
Well, I was
criticism.
I was referring more to kind of like Attack on Clones, where Obi-Wan is off being like a noir detective, and then Anakin is off protecting, in inverted commas, Padme. And you're meant to, like, we wanted, well, at least I would like to try and like get to know these characters as a unit, as a family, how they all interact. And you can't do that when everyone's around the place. This happened lots in this film, and I didn't like it. And then what made it kind of even worse was the whole like telepathy thing, where like Rey is talking to Kylo, but they're not together. And there was huge portions of the film where they're not together, and you don't get the cool film thing where like you can see like the actors bounce off one another in terms of like body language when they're doing like a ensemble piece. Now they might have been together on screen, fair enough, on set, but it didn't come across like that in the film, and it was very much kind of like almost like vloggy, like cutting back and forth in a really kind of jarring sort of way. And I'm kind of like, did this also need to happen? Like, could we not have condensed that whole big thing where they have an elaborate drawn out back and forth about like tempting Kyle over? We could have condensed that into a really slickly written, like one scene ensemble thing. And then the stupid joke about
I don't agree.
You don't agree?
No, it's a process. It's an ongoing dialogue.
Okay.
So I don't think that would have worked well as a single scene.
I see that. I disagree. But I see that. If I accept then that, okay, it needs to be an ongoing process, I would prefer if they found a way of writing it such that they come in contact with one another. I really didn't like the universe spanning or the galaxy spanning like force calling each other. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't like that at all. I don't know. And then we had
a lot of people have said that. It didn't actually bother me much in the film.
Oh, is this a common criticism?
Well, no, I say a lot of people have said that. One other person that I spoke to said that, but I got the impression from them that it was a common thing.
Oh, I haven't read any reviews about this film at all. So I don't know what the general feeling towards this is. Do you know what the general feeling is? Is this a well-received film?
Very mixed. A lot of very good, quite a bit of quite bad.
What do the critics think of this?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. Not that it really matters what critics think.
I never tend to know, to be honest. I don't tend to read film reviews and things. So unless it's like a huge like award-winning thing, then I wouldn't know that it is.
Critically acclaimed, yeah. Anyhow, give us another point.
Okay, let me just open my list again. Oh dear, where's my list gone? Here we go. The reason I like Kylo Ren.
The reason you like Kylo Ren, okay.
The reason I think he's a good villain is he chooses evil. Like we see at the end of the first film, he is given a chance for redemption, and he freely rejects it. I think, which although he has all of these other kind of Freudian excuses and things in his past that make him evil, he also just chooses it. He also is given the option of being good, and he decides not to be. And then even when he betrays Snoke, like he doesn't embrace what's being presented as the good side. So I guess it does preserve a bit of the ambiguity that I liked at the start of the film with like Luke's ambivalence towards the Force. Kylo does preserve a bit of that. But I think that's interesting. I think that's good. I have a character who isn't just evil because he has a sad past, or kind of with no context whatsoever. Just someone who's just evil. He has all these reasons, and he chose evil. As opposed to just having been corrupted or whatever. I think there's something kind of compelling about that for me. And also that he's essentially a kind of sad, whiny bitch. But that doesn't make him less of a threat. That just because someone is kind of pathetic in a lot of ways doesn't mean that they aren't legitimately a danger.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make a lot of kind of social connections, like the violence coming from sad, entitled white men in various societies, that he kind of represents that, and that he's a real person who has chosen this, and he has all these excuses. He's not like some immortal, terrifying wizard demon like the way Darth Vader appears at first. There's this kind of realness to him, and that makes him more scary for me.
All of that makes sense. I can't get on board though with the notion that he's scary. Like there's a lot about him that just makes me. He just comes across as being a bit like stupid. I like this, and this is nothing to do with kind of like the setup or his character. I think just this is gonna sound terrible, but just him as a person. It's just I don't think it works very well. Like there's loads of times where he'll like look at the camera or whatever and just look a little bit constipated. And like the entire film was kind of like, this guy isn't scary. He's just like, he's an angry teenager who's eaten too much and is showing it. And I feel no threat from him other than like he'll lash out irrationally or whatever. But the way the character plays him and his facial expressions undermine all of the valid points I think you bring up about how his character's set up.
So what you're saying is Adam Driver is too weird looking a dude to be a good villain?
No, he's not weird looking. No, he's not a weird looking chap. No. He's just the things he does with his face. Like one can be an attractive person and can mangle their face around in a
No, I think he's a good looking dude.
Yeah. So do I.
But he has an unusual face.
He's not like bog standard Hollywood beautiful. Like I will give you that, but no, just the way he acts with his face is very weird. There was one when Jedi comes out is publicly released, I might see if I could just isolate the clip. There's one bit where I thought he was like blowing raspberries with his lips a little bit because I don't know what it was. I was like, what are you doing with your face? You're meant to be like threatening in all the ways.
I was fidgeting with a candle when you said that and nearly spilled wax all over myself. I'm going to put that down.
I will find that and gifify it because I was just like, what are you doing? Like it's just ridiculous. But I take your points about how he's set up as a villain. I think he's a good villain. I still don't think there's a strong enough connection about why he would choose the dark side. So we have so far, if I'm not missing anything, he wants to be Vader. He idolizes Vader. And there's a thing with his training with Luke that soured him a little bit. But if I'm trying to put myself in his shoes, and then none of that would compel me to choose the dark side. Again, at least Anakin, as bad as Anakin was in the prequels, there was a solid reason where you can go, okay, I totally understand why you're doing that. Like, Padme is going to die. I am going to save the one I love. I choose the dark side. Whereas he just seems to be like, whatever, man, I'm going to choose the dark side now. There seems to be no compelling reason other than he's a stroppy teenager. And that's entirely fine if that is the reason. I just don't think it's a very solid one and not a very interesting and well-written one.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
I have a point, another unrelated point.
Go for it.
Well, two actually. Snoke.
No, too many.
Too many. All right.
Go on.
Podcast over. Snoke.
Yeah.
They completely wasted him. Like,
yeah.
What happened? So he was set up in The Force Awakens as a mysterious figure, like, oh, the big hologram, and who is he? And the whole internet was like, who is Snoke? And it turns out Snoke is Snoke, and we didn't learn anything about his backstory, didn't learn anything to make him menacing other than, he was visually presented as being the bad guy. There was nothing about him at all that was set up, and then they just killed him, and you're like, okay, so I guess Snoke was just a really bad Jedi. Okay, grand. And maybe they're doing the thing where they have like, they're going to do a Snoke standalone or some nonsense like this. But like
I
this is
would bet the house on it.
well, but this is like bollocks. Like this is why I'm disappointed that Disney have this. I'm disappointed that Star Wars is still going. They should have left it with 3. It's done. Like just like Breaking Bad. Don't make anything more in Breaking Bad. It is a single contained brilliant work. Stop it. Move on. Make something
Better
new.
Call Saul is okay, to be fair.
I'm referring more to kind of like continuing on Breaking Bad.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because there was talks about them doing more, and I was like, whoa, no, don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah, no, it'd be terrible.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how good your writing team is, just stop. It's a thing we all loved. Leave it, move on. And this is like Disney having it now, and just it feels very much like part of the writing process is figuring out how to franchise things. And that is not good storytelling. Like they should have told a story with Snoke, not just like killed him off, left all this mystery, and then just make a separate film. I don't want that. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And I was hoping he was going to be Mace Windu, and he wasn't. So
Oh, weird.
No, no, I'm joking. Apparently, there's some theory where it's like it is Mace Windu. I haven't read it, but I don't know.
Jar.
Yeah, Darth Jar Jar. And then the other thing I was going to bring up is a thing I liked. I like the fact that Rey's parents were no one.
I will be so angry if they go back on that.
Oh well, they can't. Like they've said it. They're not going to go back on that.
What, you think Kylo Ren is a trustworthy source?
Oh, okay.
Like all we have is his word for it.
That's fair. Yeah, I hope it stays that way. That they're no one, and because it gives a lot of kind of like agency to Rey, because it's like it's not her lineage that is doing anything. It's the fact that she is responsible for this,
and it makes the universe bigger. I think like having everything just be like a heritage thing makes the universe really small. Yeah. It's actually it's not this huge galaxy. It's 6 people and their kids.
Exactly. I think that was a really, really good move, and it was quite an emotive moment because he was really getting at her. Like you could see her, she acted it very well. Like she was like struggling to hold it in because she knew that her parents were no one, and he knows. Assuming we're giving all the information.
Well, she doesn't know. Like she because when I first watched Force Awakens with you, I came out thinking nothing about her parentage. And then people are like, oh, maybe she's like Luke's daughter. And I didn't get a sniff of that in the film. When I rewatched the film recently, when I rewatched Force Awakens recently, I saw a couple of hints that would imply that she might be Luke's daughter. But I now, I mean, I hope it isn't the case.
Yeah, I hope they don't backtrack because I think that was a really cool moment. Yeah, and again, it's silly to endlessly continue like, oh, this is the son of that and this is the daughter of this person, and it's like, okay, stop, like. So yeah, the fight in Snoke's room. One visual thing that I really liked when Kylo Ren and his lightsaber. I liked when he was dragging it along the ground. It like marked up the ground and there was like sparks and stuff. I thought that was kind of cool. Like it's like it's not just like this elegant like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon style martial arts. Like it's brutal and there's a bit of there's brutishness to it, and it's like you're not only like fighting people, you're like destroying the setting you are in. I thought that was really good. It was really, really good.
And now that I think about it, that kind of it's an echo of the fact that the ship itself is about to be destroyed and pretty badly foul up the First Order in general. There's a couple of like thematic and symbolic echoes there. Like Snoke gets killed, his chamber gets destroyed, and then the ship it's on gets destroyed. What I liked about that chamber, it was cool. Like the red in the background, you couldn't really tell how big it was, or you couldn't really see. Like the scale wasn't obvious, and it looked like an experimental film from the 60s or something. I thought that was kind of cool.
It really did. It really did. I like.
You understand what I'm getting at with that aesthetic there, right?
Yeah.
That makes. I'm not just talking nonsense. Cool.
No. If that analogy reminds me of a film that I'm gonna give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna find this. It's on my Facebook films. It's a really uppity art film.
Is the main character a mime?
Man, there are no main characters in art films. It's all about symbolism and meaning. Where do my films live on this? About? Friends?
Yeah, about and then in likes.
Oh, did I remove it because it was too artsy and hold on. I can't remember the name of it. No, the Cremaster cycle? The Cremaster cycle? Is it Cremaster?
That's certainly coming up in autocomplete.
Yeah.
5 feature-length films together with related sculptures. Oh my god, this sounds amazing.
So your analogy reminds me of this thing called the Cremaster cycle, which had it was a really weird artsy project with all this additional stuff to it. I don't recommend anyone watch these films. They're not good. They're designed for skinny elderly intellectual wine drinking artistic nerds and no one else. But when you
that's gonna be me, man.
That's gonna be you. I'd be interested to see if you like it, but yeah, no one else.
It sounds like the kind of thing I wouldn't like, to be honest.
It's not great. But when you said about a sort of 60s, that sort of aesthetic, something about that flipped the switch in my mind and reminded me of that film. But I agree, Snoke's chamber was cool. It was very cool, and it was a nice visual sort of thing. When they cut Snoke in half, remember there was a gag where Snoke falls over when he's cut in half. Hux,
right.
Remember Hux is standing over his body, and he's like, "Oh, look, that's our supreme leader," and then his lower half just flops onto the floor, and I was like, "You're kidding, right? Where you built up all this menace to the man, or the alien or whatever he is." And he's meant to be the supreme leader, and you're just going to have his lower half flop onto the floor and make a noise as it lands. Great, that's real excellent filmmaking there, lads. 10 out of 10.
I think it is. Yeah, because he's dead now, and now he's pathetic.
Yeah, okay, fine, but it played more like slapstick than it played as in symbol for me. As in, it didn't symbolize the downfall of a great, albeit evil man. It played more like, lads, do you know what will get a laugh out here? If he flops on the floor, and it's no, we're done.
I want to mention another film.
Please do.
Based just when you bring up the Cremaster cycle, there's a very good gallery here in the town where I live, and they get really, really interesting stuff in, and they have one video room which I've seen some pretty cool short films and things in. But they're recently, from the summer until the start of autumn, they were showing a film called The Triadic Ballet. The Triadic Ballet. Yes. It was written in the 1920s, and this film version is from the late 60s, it's from 1970. And it looks really late 60s, early 70s in its design and everything. All the costumes are based on the original 1920s version. But it's shot like other kind of late 60s weird stuff that I've seen. And I've only seen here now that the music was all written by Hindemith, which I'd never actually seen in the credits when I went to look at it in the gallery. Do you know Hindemith?
I do.
Yeah, great composer.
He likes his viola stuff, doesn't he?
Possibly. He wrote a load of sonatas for pretty much every conceivable instrument. I think he's got a sonata for most things, I think.
Huh.
But yeah, it's a real interesting thing to watch. It's about 20 minutes long, I think. Maybe half an hour, and there's a version of it on YouTube, the same version that was screened in the gallery here.
Links in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it. It's in 3 acts, and each one is based around a different color. I don't want to say too much about it in case anyone wants to watch it and get their own interpretations about it. But certainly the first 2 acts have very clear themes to me.
Bill, is this going to be a thing that people are actually going to like, or is this going to be like the Master Cycle, a load of arty nonsense?
I mean, it's a load of arty nonsense, but it's quite entertaining arty nonsense.
Okay.
I thought.
Okay, fair enough. What's the most like uppity, arty piece of film work you've ever seen?
Film work I've ever seen.
Yeah, is there anything that sticks out to you in like the visual media where you're kind of like that was so far down the art rabbit hole, I don't know where I am?
Honestly, no. I mean, I don't go in for that kind of stuff much. I don't expose myself to that stuff very often.
But you seem like the prime candidate to do this. Like you like your art.
Yeah, but I'm very ignorant about it, and I like to I like static stuff, and I'm not great on video installations and sound installations and things. I don't engage with them very well. Let me think. What have I seen video wise? Nothing really comes to mind, to be honest.
The most uppity arty thing I ever seen, I think. I was when I went over to Scotland for the TED Talk.
Right.
I was in Glasgow first. Yes, I was in Glasgow before going to Edinburgh. No, I was in Yes, no, I was in Glasgow, and the day before the talk, I had a day of like nothing to do, so I walked around Glasgow and basically just hit up all the kind of like free places to go, and there was loads of museums. So I went to this one museum, anyways, and they were playing like I don't know, must have been maybe a half an hour long, sort of like artistic take on a documentary about BDSM and fetish life.
Amazing.
With like accompanying sculptures and works of art. And I was like, I think we've gone down the rabbit hole here.
That sounds great.
It was very, I don't know, it was very, what people are thinking in their head now, people are kind of going like, oh, that's amazingly raunchy. Like, I can't express to you how not raunchy it was, and how it was like really quaint. Like, yeah, it was really quaint and like proper English, but while still being inspired by like BDSM.
What, like tweed ball gags?
Yeah, do you know what? You say that in joke, but that's not far off. Not that they actually had tweed ball gags, but like that sort of spirit was kind of what was going on.
And I'm actually more interested now.
I actually had no idea what was going on. I was like I don't like. I treat art a little bit skeptically most of the time. Like, a lot of people will stand around and say, oh, isn't this great art? And I'm kind of like,
rightly so.
But I'm open to it. Like, I'm open to like the sort of like listening to the sort of leaps of logic I think a lot of people who love their art take in order to imbue certain things with symbolism. I'm open to that. I'm like, okay, we're in Artland now. That's entirely fine. Go for it. But that thing in that museum in Glasgow, I was like, I have no idea. I don't know. I don't understand. I've no way of grasping what the hell I am being like subjugated to. Like, it was weird. Anyhow, Star Wars. Question. First of all, do you have anything else on your list you need to bring up?
I think that's all of my points for now. I liked that other the Vice Admiral character. I thought she was a cool character. I agree with you that she maybe ought to have been a little bit more forthcoming about what was happening, but commanders can't always do that when you're in positions of authority. You can't always trust people not to like be spies or whatever. But I thought she was a cool character, and I like how she took no nonsense from Poe Dameron.
Yeah, can I make a point about clothing?
Sure.
This has been a problem in Star Wars throughout, like, all the movies. It's like the clothing put me off because it's like y'all are on like it's a battleship. It's not really a battleship, but y'all are on like a military level sort of thing here.
Mm-hmm.
why are we wearing like Roman-esque toga-like things? Like, surely there'd be a
Resistance
sense.
is a very multicultural endeavor.
Right. But like at some point, surely on a military ship, one would like just have to wear practical stuff. Like, like this is what I think is really good about Star Trek as well. It's like everyone's just in the same uniform, barring Deanna Troi. Deanna Troi aside, in the Next Generation, everyone's just in a uniform that is, they don't always pull this off, but it's meant to just be like, we are on the ship. This is the ship sort of thing. It's like form over kind of like visual beauty. Whereas I was kind of like, why is like, especially Leia. Leia was dressed in a kind of like very elaborate sort of thing, and I was kind of like, I want to see Leia like wear like dirty overalls. Do you know what I mean?
The way she was in the first in Force Awakens, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. And I want to see all of them kind of like, men and women alike just wear dirty over, because then that just helps with the sort of like visual cue that the rebellion is like being driven back, It's like no one's in like in elaborate clothing. It's all very kind of like gritty and mucky, and we're really scrapping. And so I didn't like the choice of costume for a lot of characters.
I don't know. In the 1800s, naval captains and military officers, land officers would wear quite elaborate things to battle.
Yeah, that's
so.
fair.
I mean, that's a cultural thing, and I'm not too off put by it for that reason. It doesn't break my immersion to imagine that she's from a culture that does that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or that they left in a hurry and that was the only thing she had.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I like the sort of like Firefly get up more than this. I think it's just it's a personal preference sort of thing. But yeah, I agree with your points about her. She should have been more forceful. But a question I want to ask is where do you foresee the next film going? Do you have any sort of theories? Is there anything you'd like to see? Is there anything coming out of this where you're kind of like, this is how X and Y and Z should play out?
No. I haven't thought about it.
Now, is that a thing that you don't usually think about with films, or has this film left you in a state of like, I'm not thinking about, who cares?
I'm not massively invested in Star Wars anyway, and I just haven't put any thought into it. So, I mean, I would sometimes think about it in other things if I was like super into the series, but that's not the case here.
Yeah, I'm same. I with things I really care about, and I know that there's going to be more of, I tend to like try and think through all the plot points. But with this one, I'm just I'm struggling to care about Star Wars now. Which I don't like. It's not good. And the other thing I was going to ask is, can you? I'd be really interested in hearing how you would rank the films, best to worst. Can you do it? What would be your ranking?
Oh dear. It's been a long time since
Hang on, has no one ever asked you this? This is like the standard Star Wars question when people talk.
It's been a long time since I've seen the original trilogy. It's been a long time since I've thought about this. I haven't seen Phantom Menace properly. I would put Rogue One as the best.
Okay.
And then I would ask you.
Okay, let me think this through, right? So I would put Rogue One as the best.
Okay.
I would then go 4. So A New Hope. No, I would go 5, 4, 6, 3, 1, 2, and then Jedi. This Jedi, like the new one. What are we on? 8, 9, 9? 8. I would do 8, and then I would finish with 7, I think. Yeah, so best to the worst, we have Rogue One. I'm just going to do numbers. 5, 4, 6, 3, 1, 2, 8, 7. That ordering is purely based on the fact that I dislike Force Awakens for being a carbon copy of A New Hope. You could technically put Force Awakens in third slot in that ranking if you're a person who hasn't seen A New Hope, as in
Like it's a good film in its own right, but you're so put off by it being a clone.
right, exactly. Like
Okay,
it just it goes against everything I care for in movie making. Make new stuff, make it original, make it cool. This idea of rebooting and rehashing stuff, I hate. I just despise the whole thing. So ergo, it gets stuffed down the bottom. Although in right, it could do with being a little bit higher. Subreddit, can I ask a favor? Could everyone leave their ranking of the Star Wars films? I would be really intrigued to see how it would play out.
Yeah, I'd be curious as well, actually.
So yeah, any closing points? I think I've been through most of what I hated about this film and some of what I liked. Do you have anything?
I think that's most of what I wanted to say about the film. I do have another question for you though, Edgar.
Oh boy.
Well, it's a somewhat open-ended one.
Oh.
So this is going to be our last episode of the year.
It is.
Because it's Christmas very, very shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrate that. And Happy Hanukkah, which has just finished, I think, at the time of recording, to any of our listeners who celebrate that. And anyone who's celebrating the solstice or any other winter festivals, enjoy those.
Hold on, before you go on, just a question about nomenclature. Happy holidays, right? Is that the correct term to cover everything?
I guess, yeah.
Okay, good. I put that in my... I just finished a video and I put that at the end. I said something like, a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. And I was kind of like, I think the Happy Holidays covers everyone who maybe doesn't do the Christmas thing. So I'm glad you feel that way. That's good.
Yeah, I'd say it's grand, yeah. I'd say it's grand.
Yeah, because all the other traditions are holidays as well, aren't they? They are celebratory holiday periods. So happy holidays.
And, like, culturally and, like, employment-wise, we get holidays in the Western culture. We get holidays at this time. So it's literally true.
It's literally true. So
this is a period when people tend to get holidays. So I'm sure you're fine on that front.
Unless you're a YouTuber where you're in constant state of working on the next video.
Well, there's that.
So anyway, sorry, go on. What were you saying?
So it's the year's nearly over.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any favorite films or pieces of media that came out this year that you would like to shout out to? As you know, not as much as a top 17 necessarily, top 10 of 2017 necessarily, but just like kind of a general things you liked this year.
Oh boy, Bill. I think this might be like my ranking question, where I'm going to have to defer this to you, because I don't think I can't really name a thing that I have consumed this year that would be new.
Right.
Like,
that's fair.
apart from this film, because like the music I listen to is all like 90s rap. Podcasts I listen to, I haven't found a new one this year, I don't think.
Okay.
No real new YouTube channels.
No movies that came out? No TV?
I don't go to... I mean, I could... obviously, Star Trek came out.
Yeah.
Like, that was a big deal. But it hasn't had such a monumental effect where I'd be like, yes, 2017 was the year of Trek. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I have you got a list here?
I don't have a list, but I've got, well, maybe one or two things.
Oh, no, hang on. I've got something.
What is it?
This is... People are going to really hate me for this. My moment of the year, and I'm just really sorry, and like after I say this, listeners, I am totally okay with you unsubscribing from this podcast. You, like...
I'm not.
My moment of the year is when Apple pledged to make a Mac Pro. That's my thing of the year. Now, it didn't come this year, but they said they're really sorry to all their professional users for neglecting them for so long, and they said that they will be making a Mac Pro in, I think it was 2018. And that is in the Apple world, in the Apple sphere, that's quite a monumental thing, and probably an outstanding moment in the year for me. Not that I'm going to purchase this thing because it's going to cost like tens of thousands. But just from the standpoint of like, I care that Apple cares about like video makers and podcasters and all the high end people who require high end devices. They were neglecting them. Now they're not, or at least they've pledged not to. And that was the thing. So I'm sorry to everyone who's kind of like yet another Apple dick. I'm really sorry, but that was a bit of a standout moment for me.
Fair enough.
Okay, well, what have you got?
My film of the year is Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Blonde.
Yeah.
Atomic. Okay. Okay. Atomic Blonde. Very good. Links in the show notes.
Yeah.
TLDR.
It's a spy film. It was kind of, I think it was kind of marketed as an action film and didn't do great because people kind of weren't sure what to expect from it. But it's kind of a very actiony espionage film.
Okay.
Set in Berlin, like just before and after the time of the fall of the Berlin Wall. And it's an amazing period piece. The design and like the costumes and stuff is excellent, and the soundtrack is all like appropriate to late 80s Berlin. And so it's really good. It's got a really good cast. And there is one scene in it which I am not exaggerating in the slightest when I say I was on the edge of my seat. Like I was so gripped by this one scene, and it was incredible.
It takes a lot to move Bill.
Yeah, there's like one particular action sequence, and it just like it had me so on edge. It was really really good. It's in a way it's kind of like no, actually I don't want to say that. No, I'm not going to say that. You can get that out if you want, or you can leave people wondering what it was I was going to say. It's up to you. Highly recommend that film. Really good. That would be my main thing. In terms of TV, I'm just going to open up my Netflix real quick, see if there's anything new that oh dear, that's not how you spell Netflix. Anything new I've been watching this year, nothing comes to mind. In terms of podcast, this is a highly culturally specific one, but the Blind Boy podcast is really really good.
TLDR for the listeners, in Ireland we have this entertainment / social commentary true comedy duo called the Rubber Bandits, and they have, is it one of them or two of them, Bill?
One of them. Just Blind Boy Boat Club, who's like the most visible of them outside of the group.
Yeah, one of them has a podcast, and I believe this is a podcast about like comedy and social commentary. And your man, Blind Boy Boat Club, is a particularly fascinating character because he's so clever, and he's like so intellectual, but like he masquerades as this kind of like impoverished sort of hooligan, I suppose. He
kind of plays a role of a scumbag.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Do people in America know scumbag? Is that a term that travels?
I think they'll get the gist.
Okay.
They'll get the gist.
And he wears like a shopping bag on his head to protect his identity and all this sort of stuff. And so on the outside of it, you can be like, oh, look, this guy's just a train wreck. But then when he sits down and he talks, it's so eloquent, and it's cutting, and its commentary is amazing. His commentary is amazing. So I've been meaning to listen to that podcast actually, because I really admire him as a person and as a commentator.
Yeah. So that again, culturally specific, may not make a lot of sense to people outside of Ireland, but maybe it will. It'll
make zero sense. Like I'll put it in the show notes, but like, you know, you can attempt to listen to it, but it's going to go completely over your head.
Nothing is really turning up on my TV list here.
I have a game of the year.
I watched the OA at the start of the year, and that is not something I'm going to recommend. It's very weird, and and it got a lot of like press and stuff when it came out. But I'm not going to recommend it. It's one to tread carefully.
I mean,
what game are you going to recommend?
At least it's not a BDSM flick, you know? Like, of all the weird things we've recommended, well, I didn't recommend it, but mentioned on this podcast, I'd be like, it's not going to be up there, man.
I mean, I haven't seen the thing you're referring to, so I'm not going to comment.
I have a game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, thank you to Hello Internet for pointing this out. It's a game called Universal Paperclips. And it's a browser-based game. So, like, just to put this in context, I don't have a TV, I don't have consoles. I'm sure there's amazing games that have been brought out for those. They're just not part of my sphere. I usually game on like a very limited amount on Steam and then browser-based stuff, just as a passing to pass my time when something is rendering or loading or whatever. But Universal Paperclips is it's an incremental game. That's all I'm going to say. It's an incremental game about making paperclips. And it is fantastic. And I having played it after it was recommended on Hello Internet, I have come to the conclusion that it's not necessarily a game. It's just a work of art. Like, it's
cool.
Beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful in its intent, and it's clever and it's witty and it's suspenseful. It's brilliant, and it's an incremental game. So like, those are words that you don't usually associate with incremental games. You sit there and you think about gathering wood endlessly and things like that. Mm-hmm. This is great. So that would be my game of the year. It is.
Is it like a dark room?
It is like a dark room.
Okay.
Except I think
really liked a dark room.
A dark room is very, very good. But this is better.
Okay, cool.
Maybe because it just appeals to a lot of the things that I personally like, which will become apparent if you play the game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's better, and there's more of an intent to it, which I think is great. A dark room is definitely a good game. Kittens, have you ever played Kittens game?
No.
Kittens game is is interesting. It's another one of those like dark room-esque incremental games, except that it's not really, you don't really do very much in it as the game goes on. It becomes more like kind of like a slowly moving desktop wallpaper that has no end. Like, it just keeps going and things keep ratcheting up. Like TLDR, you're a village of kittens, and then technology keeps incrementing that you can, like, you know, take over space and all this sort of jazz and build mega ships and all this sort of thing. But there's people who've been playing the game for like years and they still haven't gotten enough, because it's purposely designed to be a very slowly incrementing game, which is either a nightmare or a blessing, depending on where you fall and think. I'm in between. I'm a bit kind of like, I don't want to waste my entire life doing this, but I see how it could be fun. So, game of the year, Universal Paperclips.
Cool.
Do you have anything else, like a food of the year?
No. I have not discovered anything new, particularly food-wise this year, I don't think.
I have cutlery of the year.
What's your cutlery of the year, Edgar?
Wall decoration of the year. I have oven hood of the year. No, I have none of these things.
This sounds like an in-joke solely understood by you.
No, I'm looking around, because the whole notion of the year stuff is kind of weird.
It is,
I find. And then I'm looking around my room and I'm like, oh, there's an oven hood there. Like, I wonder what is the oven hood of the year, and like, what is my wall decoration of the year, and all this sort of jazz. But anyhow, shall we wrap it up?
Let's leave it there.
Everyone, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. I hope 2017 was an epic year. I hope 2018 is going to be an equally epic year. Have a wonderful holiday, and we will see you in the new year. Yeah?
See you next year.
Until next time, Bill. Edgar
out.